Finally back again, guys. Game day, preseason week 2 at home, where the Eagles played astoundingly well last regular season. Fans keep it rocking, fans get it going, and this team rolls off that energy. So big excitement out of the team, the news they dropped. Ronald Darby's definitely playing, and it looks like Alshon Jeffery will make his preseason debut as well. His Eagles debut. So, can't say enough about how big that acquisition was, and it's going to be great to watch him and Carson Wentz in a live game together. So, Bird Buzz, obviously, if you don't know, is the segment on this show, on this web series, where we break down the questions that are asked to us by Eagles fans. We prompt the questions on Instagram, and then we take those questions and we answer them on the show. So if you don't follow us on Instagram at Views from the Link, and on Twitter it's just at Views from Link. So check those out. Submit your questions and get involved. We love talking Eagles. So first question from That Ninja Zay. He asks, can this defense be a top 10, top 5 type defense? And I think that with the cornerback position developing, it has the potential to be in that discussion when it's all said and done. However, you're going to need help from not only the positions that you have on defense, but the offense. The offense needs to keep the other team's defense on the field and yours off the field and score points to put pressure on opposing offenses, making them very predictable, making them force things, making them do things that they're uncomfortable doing, getting them off track. And I think that having such a stagnant offense for a stretch last year, and mostly the whole entire year, really made this defense have to work a little more than they should have to. And with lacking some development at cornerback, that was a tough task. And I think that the added defensive line depth is huge. And I think that when you look at the Eagles, you look at a team that hasn't won a playoff game in almost 10 years now. And the last time that they did, they had a secondary and a pass defense. In a passing league that the NFL now is, you need a secondary and you need a pass defense. And I think that when you just in general go into a football game, you're gonna try to pressure the quarterback, and you're going to obviously try to have to defend the receivers, and those things feed off each other. If you can't do those things in the NFL today, you're going to get torched, and it's not going to be pretty. And then on offense, obviously getting a franchise quarterback. So now that I think there's that balance restored, I think that this defense and even this offense, top 10, top 5 discussion is the goal. And I think if they do that, they're one of the top teams in the league. Obviously, that's always the goal. So I think that getting something on offense you can build around and put pieces around in Carson Wentz, and then on defense, getting that pass rush going and getting a secondary that can cover on the back end, to do their part. I think that's what it takes to win games and become top 5, top 10 team in the league. So. I hope so, but it's heading in that direction. That's a great question, Zay. Justin Bradley asks, JBrad13 asks, what do you expect from Alshon if he plays against Buffalo? Now, I said already he's probably going to play. I would expect him to make a couple plays and then get out of the game. Really, all I want to see is one completion. That's all anyone wants to see. They want to see a completion. They want to see a touchdown, obviously. See how that goes. But you play him one drive. You have to just give him a target at least one time on something easy, and then maybe take a risk, sending him downfield or whatever the case may be. But I think that you just got to expect a couple targets, and that'll be enough for to sell everybody and just say he's all right, relax. He's gonna play week 1, and we're all gonna love what he does in a full game that means something. But right now, just a little bit is enough. Smithboy93 asks, who will have a bigger impact on their teams? Jordan Matthews for the Bills or Ronald Darby with the Eagles? Now, this is something I didn't put a video out for because our videos came out before the trade happened, and I didn't put a video out talking about the trade. I dropped an article talking about it. I don't I don't believe I put a video out on. I can't remember. I've been putting videos out and things like that. So if I did, I'm sorry, but I'll give my thoughts on the trade, and that's that I think that the Eagles really needed a cornerback. I think they really needed another young cornerback, especially because Sidney Jones was out. But at the end of the day, when you look at this thing, you have Jalen Mills, you have Rasul Douglas, you have Sidney Jones, and you have Ronald Darby. That's high investment in the cornerback position. To get 2 starters out of those 4 guys, it's pretty likely. These guys look like they have some promise. Obviously, the 2 rookies haven't even played yet, so you can't say much. And Sidney Jones is hurt, so you're giving yourself backup. You're giving yourself some assurance there with Ronald Darby, another guy you can work on developing, and Jalen Mills, who's a guy that you're already developing. So I think that Ronald Darby is going to be really good in Philly. I really do think he fits this type of scheme and that aggressive nature of his, and the way that he can run down the field. He's got great speed. He's got pro speed, top-end pro speed, and he can run down the field with receivers. And I think he's going to be a guy that really does prove his worth in these next 2 years. And then you have 3 other shots at having another starter on the other side, and they're going to compete with each other, and they're all young. I think it's great. But Jordan Matthews with the Bills, I think that the Bills have, now a pretty solid receiving core. They got rid of Sammy Watkins, and now it's Jordan Matthews, Anquan Bolden, and Zay Jones, who they drafted in the second round. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that when you look at that receiving core, you don't have much pure speed. So, Jordan Matthews isn't going to bring any speed to that receiving core, and he got hurt. So I would guess if I had to, obviously it's a biased pick, but I'd say Darby with the Eagles. I don't think Jordan Matthews is going to stay in Buffalo after this year anyway. So they could have just traded for a rental unless they want to give him an extension, which makes sense because Bolden is the guy that isn't going to be there for sure. He might just retire. He was a last minute signing, and they still traded for Matthews, but I think Matthews provides a little more insurance there. So maybe they do keep him. Maybe they extend him and he sticks around in Buffalo. We'll see how it goes. But I'd say Ronald Darby has a bright future with this Eagles team if he can become that corner, because the top corner spot's wide open, and I think that him competing for it'll really help the development of all these other guys. So. Good question, though, Smith Boy. It's a really good question. Okay, so Billy Eberling, 28, asks, what are your thoughts about the Ronald Darby edition? And like I just said it, I kind of just explained it. I think you needed a cornerback because, this is a team that hasn't won a playoff game in that long. And the last time you won a playoff game, you had a franchise quarterback and you had a good aggressive pass rush that could get to the quarterback, and then a secondary that could hold up on the back end. And if you don't have those 3 things, a pass rush, a secondary, and a quarterback, I mean, those are the 3 probably, and then obviously offensive line goes hand in hand with that, and then comes the receivers. It really is the ultimate team game, but if you can't cover another offense on the back end and you can't get to the quarterback, then you're not going to disrupt many offenses, and these guys are so good that's just, you're going to get beat. Points are going to be put up on you, and on the other side, if you can't expose a team in their secondary, block them up front, and be able to put points on the board, then you're not going to be able to really advance either. So I think that in all this, I think that they stuck with what they said they were going to do the entire offseason, and that's build around Carson Wentz. And, I mean, they did say, Howie said build around Fletcher Cox. Kind of tough to envision building around necessarily a defensive tackle, but just having that pass rush and being able to build around that pass rush. Building around Cox, I mean, they kind of did do that. They got some secondary help, so that kind of helps the entire pass rush in the front. But then they also got Chris Long and Derek Barnett, and they added those guys. And then they have Vinny Curry and Brandon Graham. So now you have 4 really strong defensive ends that, we'll see about some of them, but you have a lot more depth there, and you have guys, and then also Tim Jernigan, who's a more natural pass rusher, aggressive guy. So I think that helps Fletcher Cox as well. I think that those things help take pressure off him, or when he's drawing those double teams, a guy can get a one-on-one and win it and break free. So I think that the Eagles stuck with their plan. So the Darby edition, it makes sense to me. It was It was a really sensible move. It was intuitive to see that Jordan Matthews isn't going to come back next year because you're going to need the money to sign other guys. And let's face it, Jordan Matthews had a couple years here, and he was a great worker, great Eagle, hard worker, and a good player. But if he was, number one receiver material, and we wanted to give him that $8 to $10 million that he'll likely earn due to his stats, we would have given it to him, and he would have been here. But I think that the Eagles know that they're going to move in a different direction, and that's all. And that's, it's tough to say goodbye to a player that worked so hard for your team for the time he was here, and became a fan favorite. And he was with us through some tough times, and he grinded it out with us and stuff, and he tried his his best to do it. And I always compared him to Andre Iguodala, where we tried to make him a number one receiver, and it was just bad timing. Whereas we tried to make him one of the top options in an offense, and he's not that, but he's very good as far as being a role player. I think he would have had a really good year this year in an effective year in Philly, as far as just being able to make those catches and stuff, and those timely third down conversions, things like that. I think he would have had a lot easier time in an offense where he's not one of the main focal points of the offense, as far as the defense paying attention to him. But I think that it's just bad timing. I think that he, like Iguodala, where you would have loved to keep him, but he's going to be worth a little more than what you want to pay for him, and you're trying to move in a different direction there. So. And again, like Iguodala, he's not a number one top end guy, but he'll play a role very well. So it's just another Philly athlete that I've always compared to hard worker, fan favorite guy, but just unfortunately had to move in a different direction, and it stinks. But I really like Ronald Darby, and if you would have told me we could get Ronald Darby for Jordan Matthews, and we dealt the third round pick, so that's big too. I would have been okay with it because I really liked him in Buffalo, and I think that he's a guy that you can count on to cover those speed demon receivers and get physical with him and not be afraid. So I really like that addition. Smithboy93 again then asked, any concern with Blunt and the O-line? No, I saw the Packers blitzing far too much, far more than any team would in the first preseason game. It was out of character. I'm not concerned. The Eagles weren't really expecting that. I thought Blunt looked really good. He other than the times that he just got eaten up right away, he made a couple runs. He turned a big third down he cut a big third down into 4th and 6 or 4th and 7, and Carson Wentz threw to Jordan Matthews for the conversion on that play where the guy was hanging on Wentz's ankle, and he was able to throw it to J-Matt and convert that. So I think Blunt, he's when he gets that one cut and moves upfield, he's got a lot more in the tank than I expected to see, and I was actually really encouraged. That was something that I was kind of surprised that people were like down on him about that game. That one run, I was like, man, I'm sold, and I think just the way he picked up a blitz on one play where I was giving him credit for that, and I just think the way that he sees the field and makes the cuts and things like that, everything I've seen from him, he's just a professional. He knows the rigors of an NFL season, and I think he's going to be just fine. So, that'll do it. That's the last of the questions. I hope you guys all enjoy the preseason game, on later today. And if you guys have been following me and Steve, the guy that usually does this show with me, we have a pilot shoot out in Philadelphia for a sitcom show that we wrote this weekend. So we're, wheels up tomorrow night, and we're touching down in Philly Friday. So we're gonna be hanging on Friday, and if we get a chance, maybe we'll shoot you guys a little post game video, post game rant video, something exciting for breaking down the game and exciting for the season up and coming. It's going to be an awesome year. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Once again, as usual, fly Eagles fly. You guys know the drill. Let's go Birds. Thursday night football, baby. Preseason number 2, Alshon's debut. Everybody's excited, and rightfully so. Eagles are back in the air, and it's a great time to be alive. So have a blessed day, guys, and enjoy the game. Fly Eagles fly. Let's go.